Welcome to Wisdom from the Aerial View, the podcast for those who wish to crush their anxiety and find meaning and purpose in their lives. Hello, Dr. Klein. How are you doing today, Mark?
Hello, Miss Borden. Good to see you as always.
Good to be seen. You know, one of the things we've been doing on this podcast is talking about things that are either current or not current, etc. But lately,
Well, things are either current or not current. That
that's
covers
not
most
true.
of it.
That's not true. Things can be just like me. I'm not current or not current. I'm just here. Maybe it's current. Anyway, but what I've been looking at lately a lot is this whole notion of AI, artificial intelligence. Why am I looking at that? Because I was thinking I've been artificially intelligent for years. In other words, dumb. But the more I read about this AI, the more I am perplexed by it. And you actually sent me something that I think our friend Bruce Levinson sent to you. It was an article that has transformed everybody's talking about it now, when it was called Something Big is Happening. And it was written by a guy by the name of Matt Schumer. I never heard of him, but that doesn't mean anything. And he talks about something that is fascinating. He quotes Dario Amodei. I don't know if he pronounced that correctly or not.
CEO, I think it's Amodei.
Okay. He's a CEO, big shot in the AI industry. And he has publicly predicted that AI will eliminate 50% of entry-level white-collar jobs within 1 to 5 years. Now, he also said it appears that AI will affect all aspects of our lives. For example, legal work. AI can read contracts, summarize case law, draft legal briefs. In finance, AI can build financial models, analyze data, write investment memos. And this one, which struck me, which we need to talk about, in medicine. AI can read scans. It can analyze lab reports. It can suggest diagnoses. So the article called Something Big is Happening is happening. What are your thoughts about all of this? Let's talk about AI for a second.
So I don't get scared about a lot of things. I'm scared is probably not the right word, but I am concerned about AI.
Let's talk about that.
For lots of reasons. So I have a conversation going on with some very smart people who, on the one hand, think I'm overblowing this. These are people in the tech world, people in the legal world, really, really, really smart people. And I'm looking at this going, I'm really concerned. They go, you're over concerned. You shouldn't be so concerned. They go, I'm really concerned, right? So I don't know who's right. I don't know if I'm right. I'm hoping I'm wrong, and I'm hoping that they're right. But
what is your concern as opposed to theirs?
So my concern is on multiple levels. One, certainly jobs.
Yes.
All the things you mentioned, anything from creating apps to programs to legal documents, financial statements. So accountants, lawyers, programmers, anybody who's not carrying a hammer or a wrench, their jobs can be at least partially replaced by AI.
Yeah.
So the question is, will the jobs be replaced, or will this just augment their jobs? So one of the things they talked about, give an example, is young associates in a law firm who are doing all the research. They go into the library. Now, of course, they don't go to the library. They do it all online, but same idea. They're pulling up the cases, that justifying the structure of the argument.
Yes.
And that's what associates do. They do all the grunt work, right? And then the senior person, he or she, either goes to court or does the negotiation or whatever particular field they're in, right? But if you can get AI to pull all those cases for you and create, you can just say to AI, you can put in a prompt and say either Anthropic, which is Dario Amodei's company, or ChatGPT, one of the others, Gemini, Google Gemini, and say, look, here's this case we're working on. I need all the legal, I don't know what the right term is, but justification for this. Pull every article in the last 35 or 50 years that mentions this, talks about this, whatever. And in a matter of seconds to minutes, it'll all be there. Then you can say to it, now I want you to write a brief, summarize all these articles along the lines of making the point that our client is correct because blah, 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 blah. And it will take all those articles, It will write a brief. It will create all the citations, and it's done. Which it'll be done. It could do this in 10 minutes. I don't know, maybe less. It would take multiple associates days to do all this stuff, right? Days. And it's done. So you go, wait a minute, why am I paying all these people when I can just put this in there, right? You can take, I'll give you an example. I was buying travel insurance. So I took the travel insurance documents that you get from like, whether it be Allianz or one of these other kind of companies, and it's long and they're detailed and they're legalese. And I dragged it into ChatGPT, and I actually pay for the paid version. I recommend people, if you don't mind, if you can afford it, get the paid versions of these things. They're $20 a month, and they're a year ahead of the free versions or something like that. And the difference is dramatic, right? Every few months, the difference is dramatic. Yeah. And I just yanked it. And I said, okay, summarize what this is telling me. What can I do? What can't I do? What will they pay for? What won't they pay for? What do I need to look out for? Boom. And like a minute later, it had an analysis of that. So here's something else I did. I don't know if I even told you this yet, but over the weekend, you and I talked about matching volunteers with things. Yes. I told it to build me an app to do that.
Did it do it?
And it built me an app to do that.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
It did it.
Yeah. How long did it take it to do it?
Well, I'm not particularly skilled at this. So the question, then it probably, this whole thing went on probably for half an hour, our conversation. It would ask me questions. Do you want this? Do you want that? Oh, don't forget this. It added stuff I didn't think about. Like we have to have some safety things in here so bad guys don't start recruiting people. Well, I didn't think about any of that. It had all that stuff in there.
You literally talk to the computer?
I talked to the computer. And it was asking me questions. What do you want to do? We have a choice here. Do you want the landing page? Do you want the questionnaire to look like this? Or do you want to look like this? What do you want to do with this group of people? I mean, it was. Yeah. So when people say it's not just, tell me the, tell me the top 5 quarterbacks in the last 20 years, right? You can ask it that and it will do it very quickly, better than Google.
Yeah.
But that's not what it's for. Ask it to do something, ask it to make something, ask it to build something, ask it to analyze something. It can do all these things. So you think, well, do I really need all these people? So you asked me about medicine. I'm a radiologist, right? Yeah. So radiology images are like, where's Waldo? So there can be something on the bottom left-hand corner of an image that you wouldn't even notice, but it can have a significant impact, just a little clue as to what's going on with the patient. So they're like, it's images, not x-rays. X-rays aren't that bad, but when you get to MRIs, CTs, things like this, there's an unbelievable amount of information on every slice. And a scan could have hundreds or thousands of slices in it. So you're looking at a tremendous amount of data. It is very easy to miss something. And every single radiologist on the planet misses things. Not like rarely, like all the time. Now, most of them don't matter. Right. But if you can get a computer to say, all right, take a look at this. And it goes, hey, by the way, I found this, and this. And you go, oh, I didn't even notice that. That's great. Now, the question is, does it replace you? Yeah. Or does it augment you? Well, so I can only talk about from my point of view. I think it's a tremendous tool for doctors. I'll give you another example. You go into your doctor and you go, I'm having this pain that's been bothering me. And your doctor asks you a bunch of questions and you get a list of the signs and symptoms. Signs are like actual findings like hyperreflexia, fever, tenderness. These are signs. Or symptoms, like pain over here or nausea or whatever. And when you combine the signs and symptoms together, the doctor in their head, he or she thinks, okay, what are the possibilities for this? What can cause this? And you create something called a differential diagnosis. And then your job is to go through that list of possible diagnoses and eliminate them one by one by doing additional tests, asking additional questions, and so on. Images, blood tests, so on and so forth. And that's how medicine works. It's problem solving. It's a lot of fun, but it's hard. And you can't remember everything. So once we got the internet and you could look things up, boy, that made life a lot easier. But now you can say, here are the signs and symptoms of a patient. Give me the differential diagnosis. And you will go, yeah, I knew that. Oh, I didn't even think of that one, right? Bang, right? And all of a sudden it says, I'll give you an example. So a patient comes in and has, maybe not having some kind of vague symptoms, whatever, but it's early on and you ask questions and, one of the things you ask is, the patient mentions you, and by the way, I lost my sense of smell a few years ago, right? Okay, if you put that in, one of the things that's going to come back is Parkinson's disease. Mm-hmm. You can lose sense of smell and Parkinson's 10 years before you get Parkinson's. right? Or more.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, the doctor may not have thought of that, but the computer will think about it. It'll give you every possible differential diagnosis. It'll help you. So, in that sense, do you need the doctor or don't you need the doctor? Well, you need the doctor to explain it in a humane way. You need the doctor to try and organize the game plan, right? But it is a tremendous tool and advantage for both the patient and the doctor to have this. So I look at some things, I think it'll be an adjunct, it'll be an asset, like in medicine for a while. Other things, maybe even the law, maybe in the law it's the same thing. Maybe it'll help you can still have the associate do all this stuff and makes the associate better. I don't know. That's what we're going to have to find out. But there's no doubt about it that the number one cost in any business, or pretty much in almost any business, is labor costs, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So labor costs are usually the highest cost in any creation of any product.
Yeah.
Well, if you can cut your labor costs by 80%.
Okay, but all right, so it sounds very positive, and there's no question. It sounds, except for the fact that we may be losing jobs. It sounds positive in that certainly for medicine. But what scares you about it? Why you wrote to me? You said this scares me. What is it that makes you?
Well, I think scared is probably the right word. I shouldn't have used scared. It concerns me because people have to have jobs. No jobs. It's not only just how you're going to pay your bills, because I could see a scenario where things become so cheap because the cost of goods, the cost of building things becomes so much cheaper because there's much less labor costs but still, so that's one thing. You got to be able to, feed yourself and your family and so on. But you need to have something to do, right? You can't just sit around. We don't want an idle population. That's not good, right? We all know that. So that worries me. Here's the other thing. In terms of threats. So we read about all this fraud now in healthcare and everywhere. We saw this thing in Minnesota, with these child daycare centers, and well, fraud this is going to look like a joke when AI takes over. If AI commits fraud, you're never going to know. Here's another thing: you won't be able to tell whether something you get in an email or a text or a phone call, whether it's real or it's AI. You will not be able to tell.
Right. That's happening today.
It's going to be so much worse. Yeah. That's another thing. The military, right? Who's deciding, when you have these swarms of drones and AI controls the drones? And I mean, it's just so many ways this could go south, right?
Right.
Now, there's going to be some great things. Diseases are many diseases that we worry about now are going to be cured or certainly managed. Mostly cured, but certainly managed. Climate change, boy, I would tell people to stop worrying about climate change because we're not going to we're not going to fix the climate. We're going to be able to adapt to it much better. And AI will help so much in that. Different forms of energy, it's desalination for water. I mean, there's a million things that AI is going to help us do dramatically better. So there are so many positives. It's going to be fantastic in that sense. But there's the dark side. And, we've lived long enough to know that, what was the promise of the internet? Oh, information and communication. Well, okay, but the internet's got a lot of bad stuff on it, right? Yeah, it's full of porn and evil and horrible stuff. So AI is the same way, right? It's a double-edged sword. So that's why.
Yeah. Well, there was a wonderful front page piece in the Sunday New York Times recently, written by Eli Saslow, who I adore. And it's about a woman in her 80s who lives in rural part of the state of Washington, all alone, sort of in the woods. Her husband died. And she suffered from something that so many of us in society today are suffering from, and that's called loneliness. And she was lonely. And long story short, I'll make it very short. She was given a robot. It's a little contraption that's in her house. It was invented by the Israelis, it was AI. And it was her companion. And at first she was quite skeptical of it. It talked to her. It knew when she was feeling down, when she was upset, when she was at her most miserable, and it talked her through it. It said to her, "You've been sitting too long. How about we get up and play a game?" And et cetera, et cetera. And all of a sudden her life changed. So this is the positive for AI. It took this woman who was very, very lonely in rural Washington and took her out of her loneliness. So there are positives to AI. There's no question about it. I don't know. I don't even understand AI. I don't know how it works. I don't understand TikTok either. So I'm one of those people who are still skeptical and yet understand the possibilities of using AI to help those people in our society who are the most vulnerable, who are alone, who are lonely, and are looking for companionship. And we know that when you are isolated, it's as bad as smoking 15 cigarettes a day to our health. It's really bad. So if in fact AI could be used to help those people who are lonely, I say yes, let's do it. The question that I have is, and you brought this up, there are awful things to AI too. They're changing faces, they're changing voices, they're putting voices on different people who are not that particular person. So how does one regulate this? And how does one look at AI in a positive light as opposed to a negative light? And how do we change that, change our views? First, let's talk about how do we regulate AI and should we regulate AI?
Okay, so are we going to regulate AI? Let's start with that.
Yeah,
No. Here's why. This is the toothpaste out of the tube problem.
yeah.
So AI is so powerful. I think the thing is that things you mentioned, we'll get to the loneliness and the discussion, all that same. But what people don't understand is how unbelievably powerful this is. So the thing that struck me last week, which is why I got very concerned, or more concerned, is because Anthropic, Claude,
Yes.
Anthropic's the company. It's run by Dario Amodei, and Claude is their equivalent to ChatGPT. It created its next iteration, the next version of it.
It created
so normally
it
what
itself.
happens, it
Yeah.
created it itself. ChatGPT, I think, did the same thing. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This thing is now self-replicating, right?
Yeah.
It is saying, I'm going to make myself better, and boom, it did it without human intervention. So, there's something called exponential growth. So I'll give you a really quick example for people who aren't familiar with this. So if you take bacteria and you put it in a petri dish, a little dish, right? And you put some stuff in there that it likes to eat. You put a couple of bacteria in there and you go back an hour later and there's a billion of them, right? It didn't just grow from like 1 to 2. It went 1, 2, 4, 16, 64, like 256. It's exponential growth, right? It's not added. It's not like a small linear growth, like one by one. It grows faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. And that is what's happening. So it used to take, 5 years to do in terms of the evolution of AI. Now it takes 5 weeks to do, right?
Yeah,
Something
yeah.
along those lines. It's very fast. So, and we don't really understand how all of it works. We don't understand how it thinks. So the question is it conscious? I had a conversation with one of my kids yesterday about, no, it's not conscious, but I'm not sure what that even means anymore, because if it can create itself, it can replicate itself, it can improve itself. What is that? What's the definition of that, right? So we don't really know how it works and we don't really know where it's going. So that's the danger, that this thing is so fast. What used to take years is taking weeks. So when people say AI will reach this level in 3 years, now AI will reach it in 6 months, right?
Yeah.
And it's faster and faster and faster. It's what's called exponential growth. It just goes faster and faster and faster. It's unstoppable now. And now let's talk about regulation. So the country that controls AI, the group, let's just say the group that controls AI, the best AI, is the most powerful group on the planet. So, right now we see the Chinese as our competition. Okay, that's very easy to see, but there's potentially unlimited number of groups out there.
Yes.
So we can't afford, the thinking goes, we can't afford to get behind. So if we put limits on our AI and the rest of the world has no limits, we're screwed, right? So that's why regulation is out the window. It was a good idea. That horse is out of the barn. That had to happen years ago, at least several years ago. It's very hard to do it now because it's a global world, right? AI created in China or anywhere else on this planet, it is not going to follow the rules of American AI, right? And I can tell you, it's not just the Chinese, right?
Sure.
I mean, just think of where the smart people are on the planet, and they're on it, right? And they're all over the world, right? We don't have the market cornered on smart people. In fact, we're running out of, we're kind of running a little short on smart people, I'm afraid. So this is what's going on. So regulation is just not going to happen. It's impossible. So you give a great example about loneliness, but we've read about, and there's lawsuits now going on in California about these families who were suing Facebook, Instagram, I guess it is, OpenAI, I think OpenAI. I don't want to get this wrong, but about having the AI was I think it was OpenAI. The AI was talking to the child about suicide and about
Oh, yes.
giving up on your life and so on. So your little robot is pumping this lady up with hope, and this AI
Yes.
chatbot is saying, well, your life's not worth living. You might as well just end it now. That's
Yes.
the flip side, right?
Right.
Okay, that's the problem.
That is the
I
problem.
worry about that. So the whole thing globally. In other words, what I'm saying is, and I'll give you, this is going to sound very drastic. It's going to sound terrible, and it's not meant to, but it just popped into my mind. So let's go back 65 million years, and the dinosaurs ruled the earth. Tyrannosaurus Rex, nobody was messing with Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to eat, he ate what he wanted, where he wanted, when he wanted,
Whenever
right?
you want. Right.
When he wanted. He was the man, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure there were Tyrannosaurus Rex women who were also doing the same thing, right?
One would assume, yes.
One would assume, right? And they were running the planet, and there was nothing in sight that was going to derail them. And then a meteor hit, and they were gone. We don't have dinosaurs anymore. You know the descendants of dinosaurs are?
You don't want to know what I think, but no, what?
Birds. Birds are the descendants of dinosaurs. Right. Right.
Okay,
Nobody's
right.
really afraid of birds that much, but they are the descendants of dinosaurs. Okay.
Hitchcock,
But we don't
yes.
have Tyrannosaurus Rex or Triceratops running around, right? Right. And yet they were ruling the earth for millions of years, right? Not hundreds, millions, right? And then boom. So, and here's the other thing: they talk about us, being maybe in the sixth extinction, meaning because there have been extinctions of planets. Most 99 point something% of all species that existed on this planet no longer are here. So when people go, a species going extinct, I'm going, well, that's not new, right? You're worried about some little tadpole somewhere, but 99% of species or more are wiped off the face of the earth. Nothing lasts forever. And then all of a sudden you begin to realize, Homo sapiens, are we the dinosaurs 65 million years ago? And all of a sudden we're about to be usurped by this thing called AI or whatever. Right.
Yeah.
So, people say, well, that's crazy. Well, the dinosaurs didn't think it was so, if Tyrannosaurus Rex A said Tyrannosaurus Rex B, I'm a little worried that something could happen. They go, what are you talking about?
Except that everything still exists, right? Everything
it does still exist. So the point I'm saying is that I'm not one to panic. I never panic. I'm just thinking, it just occurred to me that, you never know. Right.
Well,
that's, maybe I wouldn't be too sanguine about this. Now, maybe I wouldn't change how we live our lives. I would continue to do the right things, try and be the best people we can, help as many people we can. We talked about stoicism recently.
Yes.
Teach virtue, lead virtuous lives. These are all still very important. It doesn't matter.
Can we do that though? Can we do that? We live in the same universe. Can we be virtuous and yet be users of AI at the same time? And how do you do it?
100%.
Let's talk about that. How?
Yes, of course you can. That's the point.
Right.
I'm assuming that's why you wanted to bring this up to begin with.
Yes, it is.
Now how your brain works.
Yes, it
is. Yes, of course we can. In fact, it's the virtuous part that should lead the AI part, right? So we should all be able to agree on certain things, right? When AI or any technology is used in a purpose that undermines the quality of a society, the worth of people, we should try and move away from that. We should together say, no, that's not what we want.
Right.
I've said many times, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something, right? Just because you have the right to do A doesn't mean you should do A. You also have responsibility. Another thing Sister Oaks talked about, we didn't get to last time, was responsibility, that the pursuit of happiness we talked about includes responsibility, right? And so when we have these tools, this unbelievably powerful tool like AI, it is our responsibility as virtuous people in search of virtue to use this in the proper way. Now, there are always going to be bad people. There are always going to be people who, for whatever reason or another, and we've talked about this, how people get to be, I don't believe that people are born evil. I think, they're made evil by unfortunate childhood situations and events and poor parenting, et cetera, and societies that don't care enough about young people, blah, blah, blah. We get into that a long time, but it's not blah, blah, blah. It's all very important, but we have to watch out for the bad people using it in an evil way. But yes, the whole idea is to be virtuous first, and then you take something like AI and use it as a tool to improve the livelihoods and the welfare of as many people as we can. Yeah, that should be the goal. And that's why the best part about AI, I had a conversation with somebody 6 years ago now. And we were talking, and I said to this person who is very close to me, and I said, this is 6 years ago, I said this, AI is going to have such an impact on medical research that studies that would take years to do, we can shorten into months. We'll be able to bring drugs onto the market, create these new products and services much, much more quickly. And this person said to me, oh, come on, that's impossible. You still need to have all these patients and go through all these trials. I go, no, AI is going to short circuit a lot of that. You're going to need a fraction of the number of the people and a fraction of the number of time, because AI will be able to iterate along these lines and figure out what the likelihoods are going to be. We're going to save a ton of time on all this stuff. This is very exciting. New drugs, treatments of diseases we worry about today, many cancers, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. I don't see any reason why we can't figure these things out. We will. These are all related to proteins in our body, and proteins are unbelievably complicated. We can't handle that in our human brains, but AI can. It can create every single permutation and combination you can think of over the course in an hour, and come up with all these ways to address these medical problems. We're on the verge of this literal revolution in terms of how we care for and treat all these diseases. Again, I feel the same way about climate change. These are not what we should be worrying about. We should be really focused now on making sure we get this AI part right, that we do it under the auspices of a virtuous umbrella, that we want to do it the right way for the right number of people. We should spend a lot of time creating as many safeguards against the downsides of AI, which are out there.
Yes.
We need to think about them. We need to be prepared for them. Again, regulation is not going to happen, but we need to be prepared and think about all these things as much as possible. And guess what? AI will help us do that too.
It
right?
will. And to end this, we talk a lot about young people, and because that is the future. And there was another article written by a professor, and he wrote that young people are losing the ability to think for themselves. Research suggests that students using AI do not read as carefully when doing research, and that they write with diminished accuracy and originality. Students do not even realize what they're missing, but educators and employers know. Reading closely, thinking critically, and writing with logic and evidence. That's one of the downsides of AI. That's another thing that needs to be thought through. If we're asking kids, young people, maybe not so young, if they're losing their ability to think for themselves, they don't have to, AI can think for them.
I'll take the other side of this for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't have to remember a whole bunch of facts, or you don't have to spend hours and hours and hours and hours researching and finding things that are at the tip of your fingers, then you can use your brain in a different way.
Or for
so
other
we do
things.
need to educate people. We do need to get them to think, but
Yes.
not the same way. I don't need to see. I never understood the reason, when people who recite poetry to me, I go, that's fantastic. I could never do that. I had a pretty good memory, but I was never interested really in remembering poems or things. I like poems. I've written poems, right? But this rote memory stuff, I always seemed to me like, why are we doing this? Why rote memory? Nowadays, so give you an example in medicine, if I can pull up the differential diagnosis of a group of symptoms, fine. You just saved me a lot of time. Now my mind is open to do different kinds of thinking. So as the most important thing we need to teach kids is how to be a good person, what you're here for, how to live a virtuous life. If we teach them that and everything goes under the umbrella of that, then we can teach them how to think differently. They can use their brains for different things, but as long as it's heading in the right direction, I'm okay. So give me an example. Is it really important to remember your multiplication tables? I don't know the answer to this, by the way. I love math. My dad used to sit in the car with me driving, and he'd say, multiply 27 times 55. This is what we did in the car. I was like 6, right? 8, whatever. I was very young when we did this, but we did it forever, right? So I think now it goes, is that important? Do I need to do that now? Because really, I can just take my phone and say, what's 47 times 53? Siri, tell me the answer, and Siri will, right? So we want to use the brains for maybe, I'm not saying we shouldn't do that. I don't know the answer. I'm really not, I'm not ready to pronounce whether we do or we don't need multiplication tables memorized.
I don't.
We probably still do. But we can free our brains up to do higher level things as AI progresses. So, as long as we have our humanity, as long as we've lost a lot of that. We've talked about that. As long as we have a humanity and we understand why we're here and what our purpose is, then we can use this unbelievable new tool, this AI, which people have no idea how powerful this is. This is the nuclear weapon compared to a sword. That's
Yeah.
the analogy, right?
Yeah.
People using swords and now using nuclear weapons. That's the difference. AI is in a sense has that incredible power, and it keeps growing. If we can use it properly and we maintain our humanity, then good. If we don't, if we lose our humanity and we let AI and we just think use it as a weapon,
Yeah.
then we got a lot of problems. Then we have a lot of problems.
That's a good way to end it. I have to tell you, you and your dad were doing multiplication tables, and my father and I would sit in the car and sing show tunes. So AI can't replace that. Anyway,
I should have learned more show tunes.
We should have really. Good conversation. Good conversation. We need to keep thinking about it to turn AI into a virtuous
yes
commodity as opposed to.
By the way, we'll tell you real quickly. I know Anthropic, the company we talked about, Dario Amodei, they have a woman whose job it is to teach ethics and morals to the software, to AI.
Right.
That's her job. Isn't that great?
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah,
it's a different world. I'm sorry that we're only here for a short more time. We can have this conversation that lasts forever, and maybe it will, because it always does, because time keeps going. I want to thank you for good conversation, interesting conversation.
Let's see where this goes. No, I can't wait to see where this goes. I hope it goes to a good place.
I hope
but we'll see.
You got it.
All right, Enid. Thanks a million. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you next time.
Peace.